stays that way. On top of which, there are, especially here in Virginia, there are racial tensions. Um, there are regional tensions. If you're from a Tidewater or
So what are the
Richmond.
racial tensions? You mean people break up into racial groups in the prison?
Yes, sir. There are Caucasian groups, there are black groups, there are Asian groups, there are Hispanic groups. There's a Muslim group.
Now, all those different groups, they pose a danger to each other or have conflicts from time to time?
Sometimes, well,
I mean, among those groups, I mean, what is the place of the Muslim groups?
well, the Muslim groups tend to be,
And why did you say Muslim groups? You know, it should be a Muslim group. And you said the Muslim groups.
because not everybody's doing the same thing, right?
So what are the types of Muslim groups there are in prison?
There are, well, you know, in prison they're gonna give you Juma on Friday for an hour or two, and they might give you a talim, like a class, for an hour or two, one day a week, where the brothers can all come down together as a group. But besides that, you know, there's Muslims in every building, in every pod, and especially in jail, you know, the Prophet said, you know, if two of you leave together, Shaitan is the third. So three you should go and one should be the Amir. And that's kind of how we live every day, you know. If I'm going somewhere, my Muslim brothers, you know, this is my Sahaba, and we're going together, and we're going to take Aki over here with us. Muslims care about each other as a group, and not on no ulterior motive or no secret stuff. You know, they care because you're a Muslim. So even though it is not necessarily the safest environment, for Muslims it is.
No, but why is that? Why do you think that is?
Because Muslims are brothers, and brothers don't let brothers get hurt, and brothers don't.
But like you talk about the groups of black brothers, they're brothers. You know, do they have the same kind of respect the Muslim group has?
Yes, the Islam is above all of this. I don't think that the black group has the same respect as the Muslim group. I think they have respect. I think that the Muslim groups tend to have more respect. Because everybody is a Muslim. There are white Muslims and black Muslims, Hispanic Muslims.
So in prison, even though they're racial groups, if you're white, if you're Hispanic, once you become Muslim, you belong to the Muslim group.
Yeah, that stuff doesn't matter.
But other than that, you couldn't just go,
not really.
Caucasian couldn't just go join the black group.
No.
And the black guy, he couldn't go join the Latino group.
No, not really.
But anybody who becomes Muslim can join the Muslim group.
Yes.
MashaAllah. But when we think about Islam in the prisons now, in the Muslim group, are there lots of people who become Muslim in prison? And when they do, is it that they have that they have time in order to be able to study about Islam?
Plenty of time, actually.
I didn't mean it like that, but I mean, you know, out in the world, there's a lot of distractions. You really don't have time to focus sometimes.
You know, when Ibn Taymiyyah went to prison, he said, these people could never know the good they did me, and I could never ask for enough thanks for them for it. Because he knew, I'm going to prison, I can just say my prayers and study and recite Quran, and I don't have to be bothered with nothing. And he was happy for it. And the Imam at Greensville, he had a book from Ibn Taymiyyah about his letters that he sent to his mother and some students of his while he was in prison. And I read it, and it don't change the fact you're still in prison. Right. But, you know, you can think of it differently now, so you can study. And what I find out here is a lot of times if I'm at the masjid and the brother has a question, I know the answer. I don't always speak because I'm younger, and there are older people there, and I wait and let them have their say. But a lot of times I already know the answer because I was in jail and didn't have nothing to do. And when you say, oh, what do we do here? You can go get Sahih Muslim and just look for the answer. And you don't really have time for that.
So they have resources like that, Hadith and Quran and Tafsir?
Yes. I don't know at every prison, but I know the ones here in Virginia I went to, they had Ibn Kathir, they had Quran, they had Sahih Muslim, Sahih Bukhari, Sunan Abu Dawood, books and we Fatawa Islamiyah.
And these books weren't only available to the Muslim prisoners. They're available to any prisoner to read these books?
Yeah, I don't think necessarily everyone knew that there's a library full of Islamic books, but wherever there was a Christian chapel, there is an area for books on Islam as well, so that they can have access as well.
So I was asking you before about the people becoming Muslim in prison. I mean, are there a lot of people becoming Muslim in prison? And when they do so, do you ever have a chance to talk to them and they tell you why they decided to accept Islam?
I seen a lot of people become Muslim. A lot of people.
But what do they say is
the reasons are always different, you know.
Such as?
One brother became Muslim because he heard the people reciting Quran and he didn't know what it was, but it sounded so good that he kept coming back to hear more. I saw a man become Muslim for the evilest of motives, right? Because I believe because he owed a debt, and he knew that the Muslims would pay for it. And there's kind of a spectrum in between there, right? The vast majority of people I see become Muslim, I believe that they're sincere. The brotherhood of it, right? Allah says, indeed, the believers, they're a brotherhood. And, you know, when you're locked up and you got a class of people in some different color clothes that are above you, and these are the deputies, and then you got a class of people who are in the same clothes as you, and they're different from you because they work for the deputies, and then there's the rest of us. It kind of, you're far from home, haven't seen your family in God knows how long, but you have this family right here on the Musalla that you pray with every day, and that really, I think that the brotherhood is a big thing. I don't think that there's, you know, when we're on the yard and we're all a little scared because there's other groups and we're praying, you know, 30, 40 of us in one row, just across the football field praying. I never felt so good. I don't know how anybody could, it's like when it, like lightning strikes. I guess that's the best way to put it. The truth coming is like lightning strike, and you don't know when it's gonna happen. You can't always explain how, but it just kind of does.
But let me ask you, just in the effort to try to keep things really in perspective, there are people who go to jail, they become Muslim, and even learn a lot about Islam. But what happens when they leave that environment? I mean, do you meet people who they were the person who was, you know, subhanAllah, you really look at him and you really admire him for his Islam, but he's somebody who gets out and leaves, you know, the environment there and has, you know, bad experiences on the outside?
I've seen people that this dunya here is more than they can take after they've been behind bars. You know, you can't really fall into the kabair when you're, you know, the major sins, you're in prison. You can't really, there are no drugs, or very little. There are no alcohol, very little. There is no sex, so there's no zina. So it is easier. And when you come back out here, you know, there is a lot of temptation, especially when you've come from something very structured. And it's hard. And a place like this, this is Allah. This from Allah. This is a gift.
Well, talk about this place. You know, like you say, even, you know, Islam is meant to be practiced when you have the freedom, you know, to go this way or that way. You know, but in prison, you, like you said, a lot of things are restricted. So tell me why this place is like this Hijra house. It's a kind of important way, and I mean, every you know, Muslim who's being released from prison, he's not going to find a Hijra house, but he can find a community, he can find a masjid. So